Altos Mountain View Candidates Forum for the candidates for the City of Los Altos City Council. Tonight's program is co-sponsored with KMVT. They'll be filming it, and the video will be available to you through the link from our website, which is lwvlamv.org, or Smart Voter. The League of Women Voters was founded in 1920 when women first gained the right to vote. Its purpose then is very much similar to today, to promote active, informed citizen participation at all levels of government through education and advocacy. We are a nonpartisan political organization. Tonight's Candidates Forum is part of our educational arm. Before we begin, I would like to say that additional information about the candidates, the state propositions, and county measures can be found on the League website, smartvoter.org. Smartvoter.org will also tell you where your polling place is. It is a one-stop election shopping. Also, if you find these forums helpful and you're not yet a member of the League of Women Voters, I urge you to join. There's a membership forum out there. You can join online. The more voices we have, the more of an impact we can make with our type of informed information to the citizens. Our moderator tonight is Eleanor Yick. Eleanor was the superintendent of Wistman School District and then of the merged district of Mountain View Wistman School District. And she's currently the president of the Southwest Santa Clara Valley League of Women Voters. And she will be directing the questions to the candidates, and she'll tell you how the evening's going to go. Thank you very much for coming.
Good evening. Welcome to this Candidates Forum for the City Council of the City of Los Altos. I want to welcome you on this very warm evening. Can you believe it? The beginning of October, and we're wearing summer clothes again. We have 6 candidates running for 3 seats. Unfortunately, one candidate, Jeannie Bruins, is not able to make it tonight. She is ill, but I will be reading a statement from her later when we get to that part of the forum. The League of Women Voters conducts these forums in a very definitive way in terms of both time and process. And I understand our candidates have been through a number of forums already, so they're familiar with the process, and I won't spend too much time talking about that. But all the candidates have received directions from the League of Women as to how the forum will be conducted, and they've agreed to certain criteria. For example, no videotaping, no recording of any kind, and they've agreed to abide by that. We also ask you, the audience, not to clap for any individual candidate if you particularly like their answer. We will acknowledge all of the candidates at the end of the evening. As I mentioned, this is a very specific process that we follow, and we do so that we are fair and equitable to all of the candidates. We have questioners who are sitting to my right. I'm sorry, they're sorters. They sorter the questions. Let me introduce them to you. Tonight we have Crownie Billick, who is actually head of the voter services for all 5 leagues in the county of Santa Clara. So Crownie is sitting right here. She's our guru. And we have Gail Nyhan sitting next to her. And those of you in the audience who have already handed in your question, you can bring them over here, or if you have already done so, they're here. And what our sorters are doing, they're looking for general questions. They're really not looking for a question for one specific candidate, because all of the candidates are going to answer. So they're looking for general questions that they feel are of interest to most people in the community, and we'll be selecting those. Again, if you've already handed in a question, that's wonderful. If you haven't, we do have some cards available in the lobby. If you need a card, you could just raise your hand and signal, and someone will come to you and give you a card and a pencil so you can fill in your question. We also have timers this evening because, again, we have a very definitive process process. Let me introduce our two timers, Sue Russell, sitting right here in the front, and Natalie Elephant, also sitting next to her. The way the forum is going to be conducted, the candidates have selected their order, and they're very nicely sitting in the order, which makes it easier for me as the moderator. And so they're going to be answering in that order when we begin the forum and the first round of questions. But then after that, we'll be rotating it. For example, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next round of questions will be 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Next round will be 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, and so on. So that everybody gets the opportunity to be first, which is always the most difficult position to be in. As I mentioned, the candidates are sitting in order. They are going to give an opening speech during which they're going to introduce themselves and probably talk about why they're running for the city council or very significant things about their campaign. Then we're going to have a series of questions, and the candidates just get 1 minute to answer, which is really kind of difficult. And when we come to that time in the evening, we've allocated approximately an hour and a half for this forum. So we have 10 minutes at the beginning for an opening, 10 minutes at the end for a closing. That's 20 minutes. It gives us a little over an hour to answer questions from the audience. And if you figure each candidate gets a minute, that's 5 minutes. We could be as many as 18 questions, or it could be less than that, depending on the complexity. So that is the order that we're going to follow tonight. And as I mentioned, the timer has a very important job. When it's a 2-minute allocation, she is going to give signals at, you'd hold it up nice and high, she holds up 1 minute, and then she's going to hold up 15 seconds, and then she's going to hold up that red sign, which is stop. And we're very strict about stop, so we do want you to stop if that should happen. When you only have a minute, she is going to hold up a sign at 15 seconds, and then she'll be holding up a minute. All right, stop. I'm sorry, don't be holding up a stop, right? That would be interesting. Okay, as I mentioned, the candidates are sitting in order, but we do have one candidate who is not here this evening, and we have received a statement from her. So I'm going to read that statement, and then unfortunately, we won't be hearing from her again this evening. We'll just be hearing from the candidates who are here. So this is the campaign statement from Jeannie Bruins. Good evening. Thank you to the organizers and sponsors of tonight's forum and to our audience for coming. I'm Jeannie Bruins. I am running for City Council for one simple reason. Los Altos is a truly great place to live and raise a family. I want to keep it that way while also strengthening our sense of community, our sense of belonging. Like so many of you, my family chose Los Altos for our wonderful schools. Having grown up in a military family, I've treasured putting down roots in one community for 25 years and raising 2 sons who've attended our neighborhood schools. As I go door to door, the #1 issue I hear is that there is a disconnect between the members of our council and our residents. This disconnect is compromising our sense of belonging. We need to focus on becoming more inclusive, to have a more effective and meaningful engagement process, a process that respects multiple viewpoints, includes all generations, and uses a variety of methods to reach out to our residents, a process that allows us to work together to address key opportunities in our city. We want a vibrant downtown. We need a master plan, a shared vision and roadmap that ties our central business district with our community center. Let's define the village character we want to protect and have our downtown evolve into the kind of place we'd like to spend time in. Our project-by-project planning puts us at risk of missing strategic opportunities to accomplish long-term goals. We need safe, convenient, accessible streets, not only for cars, but for bicycles and pedestrians too. If we engage residents early in an open process, we can build trust and pursue more creative solutions to our transportation needs. Finally, we need to protect one of our greatest assets, our public schools. To do so, we need to end the dissension that exists between the Los Altos School District, the Bullis Charter School, and even our own city council. The end. I just had a couple of more lines, but that's okay. Our order tonight is Annabelle Pellin, Megan Satterley, Jan Pepper, Jerry Sorensen, and John Baer. And we will begin our forum officially with Annabelle Pelham. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Annabelle Pelham. I offer 30 years of leadership experience and a successful record of establishing values-driven goals and objectives achieved through engagement and consensus. I'm a professor of gerontology at San Francisco State University, where I was a department head for 25 years, with exceptional experience in strategic planning, budgeting, staff, and management. I know how to secure and manage private grants and contracts, which could provide external funding for a variety of projects in Los Altos. As president of state and national associations, I have worked successfully with many varied interest groups and have engaged stakeholders to create a unified version and effectively achieve a wide range of goals. For the past 10 years, I've taught every summer in Europe, where I have studied age-friendly communities. I have seen firsthand the characteristics that contribute to a vibrant and sustainable town and city. I would bring this international perspective to local governance and creative problem solving in Los Altos. As a member of the Senior Commission, I led the successful project to make Los Altos the first age-friendly city in California. This World Health Organization process places us on a world stage as a forward-looking city and attracts goodwill, good publicity, and external funding opportunities. An age-friendly city promotes the benefits of multi-generational life. As a community leader, I want to be sure that Los Altos remains a great place to live, raise a family, and retire, now and for all generations to come. As a community builder, I'm a graduate of the 2012 LEAD class, a member of the Chamber and LAVA, and a volunteer for Los Altos Forward in Greentown. I believe it's imperative for council members to be actively participating in our business and civic organizations. I have the experience, the skills, and the leadership to be strong and effective.
Thank you. And now, Megan Satterley.
Good evening. My name is Megan Satterley, and I'm seeking re-election to the Los Altos City Council. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters, all of my fellow candidates, and all of you for coming out tonight to learn more about this election. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you these past 5 years. Today, Los Altos continues to be a wonderful place to live and raise a family. My husband and I feel quite fortunate to be able to raise our 2-year-old son here. Let me tell you a bit more about myself. I grew up in Portola Valley, just a few miles away. I received a bachelor's degree in international relations from Stanford University, then went on to receive both a law degree and an MBA at UCLA. This education has served me well in my 15-plus year career at Hewlett-Packard and as a council member. My approach to my role as a council member has been to begin with thorough preparation, listen to all input, consider both the short-term and long-term implications of every decision, promote efficient decision-making, clear prioritization, and accountability, strive to be a role model for civility and respect, and work to create a culture of continuous improvement. One area we have tried to continuously improve is the engagement of residents. Webcastings, as well as sandwich boards to notice traffic-related projects, have been a good start, but this area deserves more attention. I believe our city can remain a great place to live and raise a family. The challenges remain much the same. Ensure sound fiscal practices, keep our commercial districts thriving, promote the safe use of roads for all, drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians, and find ways to engage with all residents. I am grateful to you for giving me the opportunity to serve. I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Jan Pepper.
First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters of Los Altos Mountain View for putting on this forum tonight. I personally know the tremendous amount of effort it takes to put this on, so I thank you. I'm Jan Pepper, and I'm running for City Council to get things done. I bring a fresh perspective to the council, and as an active member and past president of this League of Women Voters, I'm firmly committed to bringing the qualities of good government to this council: transparency, integrity, and inclusiveness. It's important for someone on the council to have demonstrated the commitment to these good government qualities, and I am that person. Many of you already know me. I moved here in 1985. My 2 children graduated from these wonderful public schools, Springer, Block, and Mountain View High, and received a superb education. I'm a Stanford grad with a bachelor's in civil engineering and an MBA from the business school, and I'm also a registered professional engineer in the state of California. I currently work at Silicon Valley Power and manage the $200 million bond portfolio for this municipal utility and lead the budgeting process. I bring another 30 years of private sector, real-world business experience to this town, and it's critical that you have a council member who has these important business skills. The council approves the city's budget and needs to have the judgment and experience to evaluate expenditures we make on behalf of the city. Someone needs to ask the hard questions and make the hard decisions to keep us fiscally responsible, and I will do that. The City Council sets the policy for this town, and having worked on setting energy policy in California, I know how important it is to bring every stakeholder to the table and make sure everyone is heard and understood. I will reach out to our entire community so we can set good policy in Los Altos and create innovative solutions. So I promise that I will listen to you because I learn when I listen. I'm looking forward to serving our town as a council member and can't wait to work with you to build our future. So I ask you to pick Pepper on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Jerry Sorensen.
Good evening, Los Altos, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting on this wonderful event. I'm Jerry Sorensen, and I have lived in Los Altos for 30 years, and I've lived in the area for 50 years. My candidacy is focused on developing solutions to our problems, and I look forward to working with the community to identify and develop solutions to our community's challenges. I look for, I'm sorry about that, I lost my place. Downtown economic and social vibrancy, parking, traffic, pension reform, and the very important issues of finding an additional school site to meet our students' needs. For more about me and the solutions that I've already developed for Los Altos and how I've been involved in this community, please visit sorensenforcouncil.org and vote for Jerry Sorensen on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. And John Baer.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, and thanks to all of you for coming out this evening. I'm John Baer, currently serving on the Los Altos Planning and Transportation Commission and running for Los Altos City Council. My family moved here in 1997 when our children were 1 and 3. My wife Lois and I chose Los Altos because it's a wonderful place to raise a family. Our children attend Covington and Egan. Our daughter graduated from Los Altos High School last year and is now a freshman at Boston College. Our son is a freshman at Los Altos High. I volunteered for Los Altos for over 10 years. I've demonstrated my leadership, integrity, and openness. I've served on both the Neighborhood Traffic Task Force and now the Planning Commission. Traffic and planning issues are some of the toughest challenges any city can deal with. I have a proven track record on these issues. Some of the things that I've accomplished: I was part of the first neighborhood plan for neighborhoods to manage cut-through traffic and speeding. I'm proud to have been part of the revision of our downtown zoning that has allowed for more development on the perimeter of our downtown while maintaining the charm and character of Main and State Streets so dear to Los Altos. Some of those new projects include a new Safeway, a boutique hotel, large retail, office, and plaza space at 1st and Main Street. While this is a very talented group and I'm pleased to be running with them, I've actually done the hard work of making our city more vibrant, more business-friendly, and more age-friendly. Examples of this are the Planning Commission review and approval of 14 major projects, including Pilgrim Haven, a project that will provide state-of-the-art options for seniors. The challenges before us are complex. I'm ready to take my experience and skills to the council. I'm a successful entrepreneur and currently an advisor to international startup businesses, and I bring strong business and financial acumen to the council. I ask for your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our candidates for their opening statements. And now we're going to begin with the questions, and I'll remind the audience that each candidate gets 1 minute to respond. We will start in the same order with number 1, and then with the next question, we'll begin to rotate the order. So the first question is, what concerns are of particular importance to the city, and how would you address them? Ms. Pelham?
Thank you very much. I think the main concern is the absence of a comprehensive master plan that includes downtown Los Altos and the Civic Center. I think it's really important to develop that plan, to develop it quickly. I think it can be done in about 12 months if we put our minds to it, and that includes safe crossings of San Antonio and Foothill Expressway. I think it's really important that we begin a process renewed of civic engagement for our citizens. On my walks, I've learned that many citizens are feeling somewhat alienated and disengaged. So I think if we can begin a process of involving our community organizations, our neighborhood organizations, in the process of going forward, I think that would be important to pursue.
Thank you. Ms. Satterley?
Yes, I would like to name three. Pension reform. So the issue here is our economic stability. So continuing pension reform, and I would do that through union negotiations. Successfully concluded 2 union negotiations in my first term. Second would be resolving the conflict regarding the charter school and school enrollment growth. I am supporting the superintendent's proposal for a task force to bring together all stakeholders in not only the city of Los Altos, but the cities and county areas where these students come from. I think that issue needs to be resolved in order to heal the city. And the last would be traffic safety. That's the safety of our drivers, pedestrians, and bicycles. We have a collector calming master plan that we need to get resident input on and figure out an implementation process to achieve.
Thank you. Ms. Pepper?
There are a number of issues that are concerned to the city. One is solving, One is solving the school issue to find adequate facilities for Bullis Charter School. The other is spending our dollars wisely and making sure that we're fiscally responsible and spending those dollars on projects that the community supports, and then integrating the Civic Center and downtown area into a vibrant area. But all of these start with community input. And so reaching out to the community and making sure that people are heard, people are aware of the issues ahead of them, and that we adequately consider the great ideas that this intelligent, talented community has. So I would suggest that we also make sure we use our commissions really well, because there we have a group of talented people who are volunteering a lot of time to help us out.
Thank you. Mr. Sorensen?
I'm in substantial agreement with the prior 3 candidates. Pension reform, I think, is a very significant issue, and I think there are solutions, and I think we need to address those, and we need to address it quickly, otherwise our services will suffer. School facilities, this is like pension reform. It is a silent issue that is gobbling up more and more of our space. We have 65 new students every single year, and we have to address this issue. Downtown visioning, I've been an advocate for a downtown visioning process for 3 or 4 years now, and believe very, very passionately in the charrette process, involving the community from a bottoms-up perspective. And traffic, and I think our major signalized intersections, as I pointed out last night, a friend of mine spent 11 cycles at the El Monte to Foothill interchange there. So those are the 4 that I think are very important.
Thank you. Mr. Baer?
So in the 35 years that I've worked with startup companies around the world, I teach them to focus. Focus, focus, focus. You can't do everything. And in fact, I've got 2 objectives for the city, to build respect and build community. And when you do that, you accomplish a lot of things. That encompasses what you do to maintain great neighborhood schools. It's what you do to maintain great relationships between the residents and the government. It's what you do to build community centers. It's what you do in public safety. Second thing is to build strong business community. This city is highly dependent on sales tax revenue, and if you build big, strong business community in all our business districts, you help our residents find places to shop and dine, and you build a strong tax base on which to build and maintain our great city.
Thank you. Our next question, number 2, will begin with Megan Satterley. What principle or principles would guide your decisions on council matters?
I would say reasonable expectations, as well as the character of Los Altos, are my two guiding principles. Let me give you an example of that. I think that as a property owner, you have a reasonable expectation to improve your property. I think as a property owner, you have a reasonable expectation to a certain level of privacy. Those are two reasonable expectations that can come into conflict with each other. So I approach what is the reasonable expectation and what's the balance point when there's a conflict between those two expectations. And I really think that applies to, pretty much anything, any decision we make. What's a reasonable expectation? The character of the community plays a lot into it as well. We're a semi-rural, suburban community. We love our trees, and that character is something that I embrace in all of the decisions I make.
Thank you. And Jan Pepper?
The principles that I would use are to analyze the data, and that includes the facts and also people's opinions. People's opinions are data. And get community input from all ages in the community, from all the neighborhoods in the community, and all the other stakeholders that might be affected. For example, if it's a business decision, a decision affecting downtown, then we should make sure we get input from the property owners and developers, from the business community, from the merchants, and the people who frequent downtown. And then do a proper evaluation and bring all that information together and listen to what people have to say. When people provide input, really try to understand what are the motivations behind the comments that they're making, and really try to understand and respond to those comments.
Thank you. Mr. Sorensen?
So I would like to bring a focus on solutions, and I've been working on that quite actively, both on parking management and supply, downtown vibrancy issues, understanding exactly how we can make our downtown a vibrant place. Traffic issues have been a more recent focus of mine, and understanding how we can make those signalized intersections work much more effectively. Bringing leadership to each of these issues to find solutions, and working collaboratively with the entire community, which is one of the richest, intellectually richest communities in the world.
Thank you. Mr. Bear?
So in my 5.5 years on the Planning Commission, twice as its chair, I've faced these kinds of issues, which is how do you make good decisions and what are the guiding principles? And it's a question of getting complete information, asking good questions, making sure that you listen carefully to the community to get balance and perspective, occasionally to argue the other side, because in doing so, you learn an awful lot. To listen, to make good, balanced decisions, and look out for the best interests for the community as a whole.
Thank you. Ms. Pelham?
Thank you. Well, I'm a social scientist, so I come from the place of evidence and data. I think it's important to look at best practices. I think it's really important to have consensus-driven, inclusive decision-making. I think it's really important to have all stakeholders at the table at the beginning so you can get a sense of the territory. I can give you an example. I think it would be important to have study sessions of the council to be held in the communities that they affect, so that people can give feedback then and there about their feelings about anything that's proposed. So values-driven leadership is what I'm interested in and support, and inclusion and consensus, stakeholders at the table, and listening.
Thank you. And our next question, the third question, will begin with Jan Pepper. What is your evaluation of the financial condition of the city?
I think that overall, the city is in pretty good shape. I've looked closely at the comprehensive annual financial report that the City of Los Altos puts out, and that details where our revenues are coming from and what kinds of things we spend our money on. And one of the things that I was really interested in looking at there was our pension liability what are the unfunded liabilities for pensions, where we have commitments to pay people once they've retired, and do we have the money there? And we're a little bit in the hole on that, but not severely. So I think we're in actually pretty good shape, but it's something where we do need to keep a handle on that and make sure we plan for the future. So overall, I think we're in pretty good shape. We get most of our revenue from property taxes and some from sales taxes, and we're very fortunate.
Thank you. Mr. Sorensen?
I'm concerned about our overall fiscal health. I mean, we're okay today, but the pension liability issue is far greater than what we understand. And we really need to tear into that and understand it better, because three cities in the state of California have gone bankrupt. San Jose has laid off 2,000 workers, and they're about to lay off 2,000 more. We're a small city, but this is a big issue for us. It's a big issue for every jurisdiction in the state of California. So our situation is not as rosy as it appears on the balance sheet today. So I think we have a lot of work to do on that, and very quickly.
Thank you. Mr. Baer?
So in general, we're pretty good shape. The city has done a great job of managing its expenses. It's done a great job of not hiring people where there are open positions and they have the opportunity not to add personnel. Pension reform remains important, and I don't want to underestimate that issue. However, we can't dig ourselves out simply by cutting back on expenses. We need to look on the revenue generation side. We need vibrant business districts. Hotels are a great source of tax revenue to the city. Sales tax revenue is very important. So while we can manage the expenses, we really also need to focus on downtown and vibrancy in all our business districts, because that's really what's going to drive sound fiscal health of our city.
Thank you. Ms. Pelham?
Thank you very much. I think our financial condition is solid. I too studied the comprehensive annual financial report. Our pension liability is fair. It's not dramatic, but fair. But I think we have to keep an eye on it. I think another factor to consider is that the population is aging all over America and here as well. And this is going to have an impact on our housing and also our sales. For example, I can give you an example. Right now, we have a very low inventory of condominiums in Los Altos that are active. I was speaking with a prominent realtor today, and there are only 5 condos that are active in Los Altos. There are some that are off market, but that's it. So the demand is significant, and yet we don't have that. Most older adults want to downsize to condos. We have to think about how to meet that need.
Thank you. Ms. Satterley?
Yes, we're in pretty good shape because prior councils have been conservative, and because we made the decision in the economic downturn to freeze staffing. Staff has also done an excellent job of managing expenses. However, we do have some risks. Those are related to pension costs as well as stormwater management. This is an increasing area of state regulation that is going to cost the city likely millions of dollars in infrastructure cost in order to comply with those regulations, and there is no revenue source for those expenses. The last thing I'd like to note is there's been comments about sales tax and hotel tax. One thing I requested in the last budget cycle was a 10-year projection on property tax revenue. Los Altos has really survived this economic downturn because of property tax revenue staying going. We had a slight dip one year, but generally we've been up about 8% year over year, and we need to know whether that's going to come to an end in our near future or not.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Mr. Sorensen. How can Los Altos become more environmentally sustainable, both the city and its residents?
Well, the city can do a lot in terms of downtown vibrancy, and anyone who's seen my presentations on vibrant downtowns understands that it is a very good environmental policy to have a great downtown and to have taller buildings that are modeled on the Great Streets model. Also, the the signalized traffic plan, the integrated traffic management system that I identified would save our city about 1 million gallons of gasoline, the consumption of 1 million gallons of gasoline per year. That's a very significant environmental opportunity for us. So those are two things that I think the city and the residents could do very quickly to be more environmentally friendly.
Thank you. Mr. Baer?
So improving bicycle access, making it safer for our children to walk and bike to school will help tremendously. One of the major reasons we have congestion in the mornings is because so many parents take their kids to school by cars. More downtown offices where people who live in Los Altos can work downtown will help us tremendously. At a recent Planning and Transportation Commission, we talked about improving or upping the requirement for energy efficiency of commercial projects. Today, projects need to be 15% greater than the state mandate. We're looking at other ways that we can improve that efficiency, giving developers perhaps a menu of opportunities so that we're not mandating a solution, we're mandating an outcome. And I think doing those things will go a long way to making Los Altos a more environmentally friendly city.
Thank you. Ms. Pelham?
Thank you. I have a list. A core plan for downtown that places an emphasis on pedestrians, bicycles, public transportation, and automobiles in that order. More bicycle racks and safe bike lanes. A variety of parklets or park-like environments throughout our city. A mini fixed route shuttle bus, battery operated or natural gas, a little fixed route shuttle bus would be a very good idea. And a variety of activities that will make it possible for people to walk downtown. And probably sooner or later we're going to have to consider how we're going to manage the single-use plastic bags.
Thank you. Ms. Satterley?
We have made significant strides in the last few years. The garbage contract that we adopted increased diversion rate to 71%. That's ahead of goal. We aren't at our goal, but way ahead of schedule on that goal. Our water consumption is also ahead of goal as far as conservation goes. We are a part of the EIR that San Mateo County is leading to examine the single-use bag issue, so we'll be able to take action on that. I agree with candidate Baer that addressing school congestion by increasing the number of people who can ride bikes and pedestrians would be a significant improvement, not only from an environmental standpoint, but from a health standpoint. One other thing that just ran out of my head. It'll come back. So climate action plan. We are in the process of pursuing a climate action plan, which I really think will be the road map for the additional steps we're going to take in the environmental space.
Thank you. Ms. Pepper?
This is a field that I work in, so I also have a list of things that I think we can do. We have done a lot of wonderful things already. The new garbage contract diverts a high percentage of our waste, and the Environmental Commission is working on the Climate Action Plan, which is going to show that the greatest greenhouse gas emissions come from residential energy use and from transportation. So one of the things would be to implement our bicycle transportation plan, which was finished in April to get more people riding their bikes. The single-use plastic ban ordinance, I think Los Altos should go ahead and be a leader and pass that. We should consider adopting a construction and demolition waste management ordinance. There's so much remodeling going on here that we should encourage the proper reuse and disposal of construction materials. And then we should also consider tightening the Build It Green requirements that we have for residential and commercial construction. So we can do, we require that for, okay.
Thank you for responding so quickly to that. All right, our next question, our fifth question, will start with Mr. Baer. What is the responsibility of the City Council and/or individual members to show leadership in resolving the Bullis Charter School issue? How could you, underline, help?
Well, the solution is to make sure that we have a good process. This is an important community issue that I am committed to helping address. The school district has an important role to play in that. I mean, they set the enrollment per school, they set the requirements, but in terms of offering up a range of potential sites, both city property and property in Los Altos, in other jurisdictions within the district, we need to have that. We need to develop a set of criteria, and then we need to rank order those possible sites and address the facilities issue. And it's based not on throwing sticks and stones, but getting good information and making good decisions that are to the benefit of the entire community.
Thank you. Ms. Pelham?
Thank you. A 10th site may be necessary, but I believe task forces and consultants are probably unnecessary. I think it's really important for all stakeholders to be at the table working together for a better solution and a better approach. I think it would be a good idea to work with Mountain View in particular to identify any potential school sites there. I believe that Hillview is not an ideal site for a variety of reasons, and I think the charter school is here to stay, and it's important to work together. I think we need to stop fighting about its existence and get to work to find solutions. I think it's important to work cooperatively with the school board, with BCS, because our schools directly affect our property values, and the town council is here to represent everyone. So I think we should all be at the table working for a solution.
Thank you. Ms. Satterley?
I have advocated that the current council embrace Superintendent Baer's proposal for a task force which brings together all the stakeholders, the City of Mountain View, the City of Los Altos Hills, the Bullis Charter School, the City of Los Altos. In addition to advocating for that with my city council, I've also advocated for that with Los Altos Hills council members, because I believe all stakeholders need to embrace this process, need to make known any adjustments to the process that will enable them to embrace the process, so the public can have trust in the process and know that it's examining all possible options and that the solution that comes out of it is something the community will embrace. I think that's the role that City Council should play, and that's the role I have been trying to play recently.
Thank you. Ms. Pepper?
This is a really important issue, and one of the most desirable aspects of living in Los Altos is for the public schools, and that's why my family moved here. So I believe the City Council has an important role to play, and that we should assist the Los Altos School District in identifying an additional site. But there are the Los Altos School District footprint encompasses Los Altos Hills, Los Altos, Mountain View, and Palo Alto, so all of those cities need to be at the table as well. And we also need to have the Los Altos School District there, the Bullis Charter School, the Mountain View Los Altos High School District, and the County Board of Education, which chartered the charter school. So we need to have everyone all at the same table, talking to each other, really listening to each other, and working hard to come up with a solution that benefits everyone in this town.
Thank you. Mr. Sorensen?
This is a very significant issue, and it is the issue that drove me to enter the race for this election. It's an LASD facility issue, and what not sure that the entire community understands is that we're adding 65 students a year and have been since the year 2000, and I think that will continue for some time as long as we continue to have excellent schools. We're going to add that's 2.5 classrooms a year. We're going to add 400 students from the village at San Antonio. That's virtually an entire site, a full school. It takes very creative problem solving to address this issue. I agree with Jan, there's a lot of entities, jurisdictions that need to be involved. It takes a lot of creativity. It takes a lot of real estate experience, because you're going to have to do land use. And we cannot have an obstructionist up here and threatening lawsuits. That's not healthy for anybody. And I will note that I've been endorsed by every school board member.
Thank you. Now we're back to our original order again, so we'll be starting with you, Ms. Pelham. The next question is, how would you listen, fix downtown, and be transparent? Please give us some specific details on what you would do.
Listen, fix downtown, and be transparent.
Yes.
Oh my, okay. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm a good listener. I've been told I have emotional intelligence. I say that with humility. And so I think listening is important. In terms of fixing downtown, I think it's really important to have a master plan that links downtown and the Civic Center and to have safe crossings. I really believe in public-private partnerships. I think they're a way to do a lot of creative activities and reduce the amount of public funds that are invested in that kind of thing. I really support a new intergenerational community center. I think it could be a showplace, have real marquee value for Los Altos, so I would support that. I think downtown zoning needs to be predictable, and we need buildings that reflect best practices in architecture.
Thank you. Ms. Satterley?
So with respect to transparency, since I have been on council, I have been advocating for more information to be available on the web. More information that is easily accessible to residents 24/7. I will continue to advocate for that. That allows residents to review the information and provide thoughtful comments. I think some of the candidates have also come up with some interesting ideas to actually improve the notification to residents of topics that might be of interest to them, and I'm interested in pursuing that conversation as well. With regard to downtown, there's two things that I think need to happen. One is the parking management study needs to be completed. That is going to come back to us in January. I wish it was done now. I wish it had been done 6 months ago. We are waiting for the holiday count to get that data. And the second is to pursue the public-private development opportunity at 170 State with the Passerelle Investment Group.
Thank you. Ms. Pepper?
I would suggest that we reach out to the community for a lot of input about what we want to have downtown. And as far as transparency goes, we would have all of these meetings be public so that everyone is aware of everything that's going on. And some of the ways I've suggested that we can reach out to the neighborhoods is to use the existing neighborhood groups, such as the Yahoo groups and Nextdoor.com and the neighborhood watch groups that already exist, and use those to get information out to the community in a timely manner and allow people the opportunity to get involved and state their views if they so choose to do. As far as the downtown, I advocate also for an integrated civic center in downtown that where we look at create a vision based on all of the planning that's been done over the last 20 years, validate whether that vision is correct from the community input that we have, listen really well, and then implement.
Thank you. Mr. Sorensen?
From the listening process, I'm an advocate of the charrette process. So when you have difficult problems, you involve the community in that process as much as you can. Fixing the downtown, I think many people are aware that I have done a lot of work on this, and it's on my website. You can see the presentation that I made to Los Altos Forward. My vision, my personal vision, is a downtown that is based on the Great Streets model, which is building heights that have a ratio to the street width. And in terms of transparency, I just start off with the city's currently being sued over a memo. Let's release the memo right now. Let's release the memo before November 6th. 7 days notification, I think, is important, and let's record every single meeting. I will note that I have recorded meetings, and certain people have said they would walk out of the meeting if I continued to record it. Every meeting should be recorded for later review.
Thank you. Mr. Baer?
So I think our new website will improve transparency and information for the community. We've gone a long way over the last 15 years. We need to go further. I think we need to put a better process in place. There is new technology. There are new ways that we can gather input from our community. We all have very, very busy lives. And so showing up every time at a council meeting or at a meeting, even if it's in a neighborhood, doesn't always work. And there is new technology. We need to leverage it. We need to get rid of the rules that make Los Altos, in some people's mind, a difficult place to do business. And we need to be proactive. We've been reactive. There are some undeveloped properties in our town that there presents some tremendous opportunity for parking, for development, and we need to be proactive as a community, not only to find opportunities, but to make good things happen for our community.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Ms. Satterley. How will you balance demands from ABAG for new housing? Let me start over again. Okay. How will you balance demands from ABAG for new housing with school growth, traffic, and city services? Will you allow ABAG to dictate growth?
So, as a council member, we are sworn to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the state of California. The state of California requires us to be compliant in the housing element. The housing element is constructed based on numbers given to us by ABAG. So, yes, I will comply with state law. That said, right now, the county and the region is going through a conversation as far as what those numbers should be. And the city of Los Altos is actively engaging in that conversation. One of the things that is troubling about that conversation is we haven't gotten a lot of data around what the assumptions are relative to the growth. I did recently attend a meeting where the executive director of ABAG was there, and he presented that the housing number growths that are coming out are based on the assumption that the U.S. will return to full employment and that Silicon Valley will get more of its fair share of that employment. So that at least gives us the basis for where they're starting to build their housing numbers on. I think there's more conversation to be had as to whether those are realistic and how we need to fold those into our plans.
Thank you. Ms. Pepper?
I think we have a responsibility to step up to what the requirements are for Los Altos, and we can do that in a creative way. Part of what working with meeting the requirements of ABAG is working with the region and working with our neighbors, because if Mountain View is building a big complex, which they are right now at El Camino in San Antonio, that has a huge impact on us. The traffic is going to be impacting us. So we need to have more cooperation with our close neighbors and with the Bay Area overall. In my job, I work for Silicon Valley Power, which is the electric utility for the city of Santa Clara, and I'm involved in a lot of regional groups, and so I have experience working with other cities and working with other city council members to try to solve problems that face us all.
Thank you. Mr. Sorensen?
I think that we need to pursue housing element that is important to us. And we need to have that discussion, as Megan pointed out, with ABAG, and we need to work with our regional partners, as Jan has indicated. But I think we should decide what we're looking to do and try and understand what is in our best interest, and then we can go pursue that negotiation. Obviously, we need to uphold the law, but there are many things that we can do to challenge the law if we don't think it meets our vision and what we're trying to do with our community.
Thank you. Mr. Baer?
So we've been fortunate over the last 5.5 years that I've been on the Planning Commission that we've had a number of very large parcels that have come up for development, and we've been able to meet not only our housing but our targets for affordable housing. It's going to be increasingly difficult to do so. And I think it's really important that we look at creative ways to do that. There continue to be some areas of town along the El Camino that have more development potential than other areas. We do, however, have to recognize that those developments will continue to have an impact on schools, on traffic, and we are at a bit of a disadvantage because we don't have public transit. So we may get in a situation, and some of our related communities may get in a situation where we need to have a discussion to make sure that those targets are realistic and meet the overall needs and values of our community.
Thank you. Ms. Pelham?
Thank you. We're obliged to follow ABAG directives. I think it's important to take a holistic approach. We clearly need more housing in Los Altos, particularly condos for older adults and young people. There's a very high demand, and that high demand pushes up prices. I think we want to encourage developers to have more moderate priced housing and even BMRs, and this can be done with incentives. There's a variety of models of incentives that can be offered to developers to have more moderate housing and to make sure BMRs are available in planned housing. So I think the incentives approach is a good idea. I also think regarding traffic, we want to really promote pedestrians, bicycling, and public transport, and we can create it with a shuttle.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Ms. Pepper, and it's a double header. In 1 minute, too. To increase revenue, should we increase the multi-residential area and commercial area? And to increase safety, should we have more sidewalks and manicured streets? I don't understand manicured streets. I understand manicured lawns, but manicured streets, I don't know.
How about maintained? Is it maintained?
Maybe, no, it's manicured. Yes. To increase revenue, should we increase the multi-residential area and commercial area? And then, to increase safety, should we have more sidewalks and manicured streets?
Okay, so you didn't want to break that into 2 questions, huh? Okay.
We could.
That's okay. No, that's okay.
We could, if you want a minute for each one.
No,
Would you prefer
that's
that?
all right. I'm sure there's a lot of questions that are out there.
Okay.
Should we have more residential
First is revenue, and then safety.
multifamily in the commercial area?
And
to
the
increase
commercial
revenue?
area. Let me say it again. I think this is getting confusing. Let's divide it into 2 questions, just so that we're clear. You know, I need to deal with one issue at a time, too. So let's just take the first part, which is to increase revenue. Should we increase the multi-residential area and the commercial areas?
Okay, so I'm assuming that that means to increase revenue generation in our downtown, for example. Should we have more multifamily housing so that we have more feet on the street, more people living there to go to the businesses, and also increase the number of office buildings to, again, have more feet on the street? I'm going to assume that's how I'm going to interpret this question. And I think that is one of the ways we can do that. What I would suggest is that we get the community together and make sure that that's what our community wants, that we look at the downtown and the civic center in an integrated way, and we look at do some scenarios. What would it be like if we had more multi-residential housing? What would it be like if we had office buildings? What would that look like? Let's have some 3D renderings of what the city would look like. Is that the kind of look that we want? And then do some forecasting. Is that going to produce the kind of revenue that we expect? And then make sure that the community as a whole is in favor of going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Sorensen?
Yes, I do think that we should change our zoning. The current zoning today that is supported by Mr. Baer, Mayor Carpenter, and Ron Packard allows for 4 parcels in our downtown to be developed. 4 parcels that would create about 80 housing units and maybe 8,000 square feet of office. So I hear a lot of talk about we need more office, but the current zoning only supports about 80 units, 80 housing units, and 8,000 square feet. So I absolutely agree that we need to change our zoning so that we can allow for greater development in the downtown.
Thank you. Mr. Baer?
So I was on the downtown committee that actually changed the zoning, and in fact, we are seeing the result. We're seeing significant growth in both multifamily and commercial. Since I've been on the Planning Commission, we've got 150,000 square feet of new Class A retail and office space, and we're going to have more. Passerelle Investment bought 170 State Street. They're proposing there on that site alone probably a 30,000 square foot building. We've got underdeveloped property along First Street, and those present tremendous opportunities for a range of options from multi-tenant office to multifamily residential. So we have the change in zoning, we have a good economic climate, and we see new projects coming along every day.
Thank you. Ms. Pelham?
Thank you. Yes, we need to have zoning and opportunities for multi-residential housing. As I'm continuing to learn, the demand is significant. All the literature says density is important. 880 cities, age-friendly cities, the grand boulevards, placemaking, all of them agree, the new urbanism agrees. We want more density in our downtown. Our seniors want it, our children need it, particularly condos. We want to have condos available for our seniors and also for our children and grandchildren. Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Satterley?
So it's interesting. I would have interpreted the question a little bit differently, but I'm going to go with this interpretation.
Okay.
First of all, I don't think generation revenue should be the driving force for any decision. I think community values and community desires should be the driving force for a decision. So when we're talking expressly about downtown and expressly about whether the current zoning needs to be modified to encourage more multifamily housing and or more commercial, my answer to that would be we need more input from residents. I believe residents are divided on that topic. And I think that the decision, again, should not be made to generate revenue, but to provide the environment that we want to have in the city of Los Altos.
Okay, thank you. And now the second half of that question, that became question number 9. And we'll be starting with Mr. Sorensen. To increase safety, should we have more sidewalks and manicured streets?
I'm not really sure how to manicure a street.
Maybe it's trees. I don't know.
Streets, trees.
May I speak up?
Yes.
I submitted a question. Oh, sure. Manicured street, I mean by curbs, gutters, like other cities. You look to Mountain View, Sunnyvale, Palo Alto, they all, the streets are very well manicured. Should we have more of those, more sidewalks? Ask first part of the question too.
Sidewalks, curbs, so on.
That question's gone.
Okay, thank you. We are going to go ahead with
I think those
it.
are neighborhood. I think those are neighborhood responsibilities. I like our town the way our town is, and if neighbors would like to get together and identify places where they'd like to do more curbs and gutters, and they feel that there's a significant safety issue, then we can address that at that time. But I don't think that one of the things that I hear on the street, and I know that I've spoken to Jeannie about this, and I think Jan about this. It seems like our city is backwards a lot of times. The city comes in and says, we want you to have a traffic light. And the residents say, we don't want a traffic light. Usually it's the reverse. So I don't think the city should be coming in and saying, we want you to have curbs and gutters if the residents are not really in favor of curbs and gutters.
Thank you. Mr. Bear?
It's important that we get community input, that we respect community values, and I think that applies to streets and curbs and gutters as it applies to our downtown. I'm actually looking forward to having a number of the buildings in downtown where the residents can then give back their feedback to the council, to the city staff as to what we think. I'm